What is going on, people? We are Tottenham TV back here for another Tottenham update with some interesting updates in regards to some attacking signings. Maybe Tottenham are getting their act together. There's a new name in the hat. We've been linked with him before this summer, but there's reported interest. There's other stories about the usual names as well that have been linked with incomings and outgoings over the past few days, which will bring you an update on this video. But there's a new name in the hat that Tottenham could well be stepping up the chase for. And as you can see on screen, the name is Folarin Balogun, who obviously was at the World Cup with the US, scoring a few goals, impressing a lot of people. According to Loic Tanzlik, who obviously is he's a journalist for RMC Sport out in France. He is reporting tonight Tottenham are stepping up their pursuit of Folarin Balogun, who Monaco value at around 60 million euros, which is around 50 to 55, about 55 million pounds. So a potential big move for the American striker. Now, he's a player who divides opinion in terms of how good he is. He's at the moment playing out for Monaco in Ligue 1, having a good season last season, had a really good World Cup for the US, scored a brace in their opening game against Paraguay, scored another goal against Bosnia in the knockout rounds as well. He is a striker who I think people can't really decide how good he is. Last season for Monaco, he netted 13 goals in Ligue 1, 5 goals in the Champions League, 1 goal in the French Cup, so 19 goals in all competitions. 19 goals in all competitions last season. I think impressing a lot of people, following on from what has been a pretty good spell at the moment at Monaco. He was formerly of Arsenal, which obviously rubs people up the wrong way. A lot of people don't like the fact that he's former Arsenal and want to stay away for that kind of reason. He's a striker who's got pace in abundance. He's got good physical attributes. He's decent when it comes to, scoring goals in the air as well. He's got good aerial ability. I would say when it comes to his hold-up play, his aerial ability from that kind of front, when it comes to, pumping long balls into him, I think he can struggle. Maybe he can get bullied, but he's got a good sense of movement. He runs beyond the last man. He exploits space really well. I think he finds space really well in the box, and I think he's a nuisance for defenders. He doesn't give defenders a moment's rest. He's one of those players who is always got maybe a bit like Darwin Núñez, in a sense, not in a bad way, where he always just finds opportunities to get chances. He always seems to have 3 or 4 shots a game. He always seems to be right in the thick of the action when it comes to his ability to find himself shots. And obviously, he's got good feet. He's a decent finisher, and he's very, very quick. And in the Ligue 1, he's had I would say a mixed time of it. He was actually first went to Ligue 1 in 2022 when he joined Reims under then Will Still, who was obviously having a really good spell as manager of Reims. He scored 21 league goals that season. He then got his move to Monaco, where he had a decent first season, 13 goal contributions in his first season. Then was ruled out for the majority of his second season, only scoring 4 league goals, but he had a big shoulder injury which ruled him out for the majority of the season. So he actually scored 4 league goals. That only came in about 7 starts. So even then, his goal scoring record wasn't bad. And last season, I think he was back to his near his best with 13 league goals, 6 assists as well. So he was getting really good goal contributions in the Champions League as well. He was able to get 5 goals in 10 games, including a brace in a knockout tie against PSG. So even against some of the better sides, I think the other 3 goals came against Galatasaray. One was against Paphos. I'm not sure what the other one was. But I remember watching that knockout game against PSG and looking at Balogun and just seeing what a handful he is. He is a player that I think defenders don't like facing just because of his raw pace. He is very, very quick in behind. You've always got to see where he is because you can't take your eyes off him. So from that point of view, I think, I think this is a player, by the way, I think in his last 17 games in for club and country, he scored 14 goals. So he's absolutely on fire at the moment. He's got momentum in his career. Maybe he feels like he's finally finding his rhythm. On the flip side, he's obviously former Arsenal. He didn't really get an opportunity when he was playing in the Premier League for the Gunners, and he was obviously cast aside. He's gone to Ligue 1, and I think he's had 2 really good seasons and 2 middling seasons that were, one of them really interrupted with injury, and the other one didn't quite hit the heights in his second season at Monaco. So I think there's also a lot of question marks about how consistent a finisher he is. I think he's got different finishes kind of in his locker, but I also think he's one of those who, he's not like one chance, one goal kind of finisher. He's a bit like, you're going to need to give him 2, 3 or 4 chances to make sure he scores. But he's also a player who gets those chances. So it's an interesting one from Tottenham's point of view. We're obviously looking for a massive upgrade in the forward line. He offers you something very different to what Richarlison or Solanke offer you in the forward line. He offers you that pace in behind. He offers you that threat when there's wide spaces to play into. I'm not so sure about his interplay, giving the ball into feet, kind of his hold-up play. Can he stave off defenders? Can he make sure he retains possession when he's got pressure on his back? I think those are obviously question marks. I also think if we're playing long balls, looking for flick-ons at any moment, I don't know how good he is aerially from that point of view. But I do think he's good at finding spaces. If Porro's whipping crosses into the box, I do back him to maybe, get to the back post and get on the end of something from a header. I do think his movement is good in the box. I think he's turning into a really good striker. I remember we were linked with him earlier in the window. I was like, I'm not mad at it. I don't think he's my number one. We've been linked with Mikitadze, who I think is a far better footballer than Folarin Balogun, but maybe doesn't have the pace that Folarin Balogun does. Obviously, 60 million euros is a hefty outlay. But in this current market, for a striker who you think is going to improve us, I think it's an outlay worth investing. If we think that Folarin Balogun could potentially be the guy who can score goals in a De Zerbi system, I think he definitely could work under De Zerbi. I definitely think he's a striker who could get a good number of goals for Tottenham. I don't think he's a world-class striker. I don't think he's a striker who's going to set the world alight, and he's not going to give you that wow factor. I know a lot of fans already are, quite downbeat on it, and they're not excited about this transfer. But he's one of those that where maybe he could fit the system. He could be an improvement we have, and maybe he could be the striker to get the goals that we need. I think he's an interesting prospect for Folarin Balogun. And what I like about it is it gives us different options. If we, let's say, sell Richarlison or Solanke, maybe more Richarlison, and you have Balogun there, he could be the fox in the box, the poacher, the guy who can run in behind. And then if we've got a different threat, maybe teams sitting a bit deeper, not leaving that space, you have Solanke, who's really good at his hold-up play, bringing other players into play, a real aerial threat as well, someone you can knock the ball long to. So I think it gives you those options. It gives you that variety in the forward line. So I like the idea of Balogun. Again, I think I'd probably prefer Mikitadze. If Osimhen is available, I'd rather someone like him. Maybe, could we go for an Ollie Watkins potentially? Could he be someone that we look to in this window if he's, available for a decent price? But Balogun, in the prime of his career, 25 years of age, if you would have seen him at the World Cup, you would have seen he's a guy full of confidence at the moment. Obviously was at the centre of that controversy with the red card, which was obviously overturned due to a call from Donald Trump. So that just plays into his whole narrative. So it's just one of those, whether I can understand fans like he's only done it in Liga, and is he good enough for the Premier League? Is he an improvement what we had? Is he actually that good? Has he been maybe, playing against weaker opposition? Can we really judge how good he's going to be in the Premier League? But that maybe another set of fans or other fan who's watched him more and can see what he's capable of, and can see a striker who's a handful. He's fast, he gets chances, he scores goals, he's in really, really good form. And maybe this could just be a striker right now coming into his own. So very, very interesting that there's reports now of stepping up our chase. Also I think it goes to show the lack of lots of options, real good quality options and sure things on the market right now. And the fact that we could potentially be turning to Folarin Balogun, I think, is evidence of a market, stale market right now, a market, a barren market of real good quality strikers. And I think maybe Balogun could be a short-term option, which improves the front line. So I'm not mad at it. I'm not crazy about it, but I'm not sitting here saying I think it's a terrible move, terrible signing. He's a terrible player. I think he's a player right now who is in the really, really good form and actually maybe could work in our system. So let me know in the comment section below what you think about Folarin Balogun. SZY has been speaking this evening about the likes of Savinho and Cody Gakpo, and he says that Roberto De Zerbi is still confident of getting the duo of Savinho and Cody Gakpo. So obviously we are hearing that both Gakpo and Savinho are only going to be available if both Man City and Liverpool can find replacements to bring someone else in. There's reports now coming out this evening about Barcola and Mbaye, with Liverpool going for both. And if that happens, potentially Liverpool would be open to letting Gakpo go for around 60 million to balance the books, with a big outlay for Barcola coming. With Savinho, we haven't really heard too much in regards to Man City and their kind of look for replacement. There was tentative links to Pedro Neto. That seems to have gone cold at the moment. There's even reports suggesting Arsenal could come in for him. So I'm glad he's confident. I'm just looking at the situation and look, if we get them both over the line, I'd have nothing to complain about. I like them. I think they're both going to be really good signings who both really add quality to our forward line. And I think they're exactly what we need. We've got that real chance creator in Savinho with good dribbling ability. And then Gakpo offers that little bit of maybe cutting edge in the final third, can offer goals, offer maybe that little bit of finishing touch. And he's quite good against low box potentially with his long range shooting. So I think both of those provide something that we don't have and we could do with. But we're getting very close to the start of the season. There's still no movement at the moment when it comes to Man City and Liverpool and their looks for replacement. So a lot needs to happen for Tottenham to get their men and their signings over the line. But SZY is saying he is confident still that he's going to get his top targets. And if we get Gakpo, we get Savinho, and we get Folarin Balogun, all of a sudden that attack is starting to shape up. I'm not saying it's the finished article. I think in future windows, you're going to probably have to look for a top number 9 to maybe compete with or replace Solanke or Balogun down the line. But for now, in terms of improving the attack, making that step up from where we've been over the last few years, I really think Savinho, Gakpo and Balogun would go a long way to really sealing that attack, and it gives us variety. I do think there's goals in there. I think there's chance creators in there. So I think I would definitely be happy with those three, with a view of if we do push the boat and we're challenging with Champions League and we want to make that next step up, obviously down the line, you might need to bring in an Osimhen or a Kane or whatever. And I'd love it to be this window, but I don't know how realistic getting that level of targets right now in the forward line is. So I'm willing to accept this level, and I think it is a good level, and it could get us competing for the Champions League next season if we can get those three players in. Let me know in the comment section below. Would you be happy with Balogun, Savinho, and Gakpo as the 3 forward signings, or is that not enough quality? Are we missing too much with that? Let me know in the comment section below. And last but not least, there's been an update from DiMarzio regarding Djed Spence. So there's been a lot of talk about Djed Spence, whether we are giving him away on the cheap, or we should, or if he wants to go, let him go. Well, DiMarzio is reporting Inter Milan scheduled for talks for tomorrow with Tottenham Hotspur, Re Spence. The English club's valuation is around 35 to 36 million euros, including bonuses. That's as of Sky Italia. So he's saying that it's 36 million euros, including bonuses. I thought he read it's plus bonuses. Sorry, I must have misread the story. But he is saying that it's 36 million, which is around 30 million pounds. So a bit more than the 25 million that was reported earlier. I think if Tottenham can eke out that little bit more from him, that 35 million £35 million plus add-ons, get it close to that 40 million. I think maybe we're getting closer to what is a fair price for Djed Spence. And I think for me, I really appreciate Djed Spence's. I really appreciate Djed Spence's qualities, his versatility, his physical qualities. I really like Djed Spence, but if he wants to leave, he wants to pursue first team football. It's hard to begrudge him that, and I think if we can get a good offer, maybe we replace him for someone who's more willing to be here, willing to fight for the badge, who's excited about being at Tottenham. Maybe is more De Zerbi's cup of tea, De Zerbi's style. Maybe that is what we should do. And I think as well, there's reports that we do need more money to secure the signings that we're looking for this summer. And if kind of Djed Spence has to make way for that, then I'm not like massively against it. But I think if in an ideal world, I would much rather keep Djed Spence than let him go and have the headache of having to look for another player, another fullback in the back line to replace him. We've already got a good player there. But our hands might be tied if Djed Spence wants to go and he doesn't want to potentially fight for his place with Pedro Porro and we can get a decent fee. I think we've got to be open to it. And it sounds like that's what Tottenham are. According to SZY, who again has been talking about Spence, he claims the value that we're willing to accept is reflective of how highly De Zerbi rates him. And he's kind of implying he doesn't really rate him all that highly. So if that's the case, then you just got to trust De Zerbi on this one. And I kind of, disagree. I rate him higher, right? I think he's probably worth around 40 to 45 million. That's the kind of level we should be looking at. And I'm really hoping a Premier League team come in, albeit, you've got to also say if only a team of the kind of significance of a potential rival is coming in for him and we can maybe sell him abroad for maybe it's a bit less, but he's not selling him to a rival. I think maybe it's worth taking a little bit of a hit to make sure he goes abroad. And if Djed Spence is open to going there, I think we've got to be open to that. So, yeah, I mean, looks like it's going to be around £30 million, including add-ons. If we can squeeze an extra 5 million, I think I can probably just about live with that, and it's not the end of the world. There has been a little bit of an update here on Lucas Bergvall, which I'm just going to report as I was kind of giving you the updates on Djed Spence. Ali Gold has written a little bit of an update on Lucas Bergvall. So he claims when it comes to Lucas Bergvall, there has been an appreciation from the player side that De Zerbi has matched plenty of praise for him with a good amount of minutes in pre-season, even if there is a realization that those minutes may not carry into the actual season. The Swede is understood to have worked positively during the summer and rather than salt over those rejected bids, has got his head down and continued to push under De Zerbi, looking to try and develop his number 8 role as he wanted last season. So I'm really glad to hear that from Lucas Bergvall. He doesn't seem the kind of guy who's going to down tools and he's going to, kick up a fuss. He's going to refuse to play all that kind of stuff. I think he's got a good head on his shoulders. I love Lucas Bergvall. I think he's a proper talent. I'd love to keep him at the club. The fact that we've rejected large offers as high as £46 million, I think goes to show how that the club do rate him. They don't want to let him go on the cheap. Unlike the likes of Spence and Romero, who are willing to maybe take cut price deals for, it sounds like Lucas Bergvall, we are pretty defiant on our valuation has to be met. Otherwise, he isn't going anywhere. Which I'm happy about. And I really hope Bergvall looks at this as a challenge to get his way into the first team, to improve himself, because I think there's a real top talent in there. I don't think he's of the level right now as the players we've signed in Mateus Fernandes and Sandro Tonali. I think he's got a lot of work to get to that level, but I think we've already seen at times at Tottenham the high quality he has, the high potential he has. He's got really good qualities. He's a really physical. I think he's a good dribbler. He's fearless. I think he can be a bit of a kind of headless chicken sometimes, just running all over the place. He's got to learn how to kind of channel that into being a bit more disciplined. But I think if Lucas Bergvall is one of our midfield rotations for next season, and then with a view of if he can keep him, if we can get him to stay for a year with a view of next season, if we are back in Europe, we know there's going to be minutes for him. And especially if we're in the Champions League, there's going to be minutes to go around, and all of a sudden he'll find himself getting plenty of minutes and not having to be worried about lack of development or lack of game time. If we can convince him to stay for one more year, I think that'll be a brilliant piece of business for Tottenham. On the flip side, we do need some money to come in to fund some of our other deals. And if it is Lucas Bergvall that has to make way to fund some of the winger signings and attacking signings, then I can live with that as well, with the view of we do have a lot of good midfielders already at the club. And I don't think Bergvall's a be-all end-all. But for me, I'd rather keep him than sell him. I wouldn't want to let go of such a talent, and I wouldn't want to see him go on to a different club and maybe reach his potential. But at the end of the day, if we do sell him and he does reach his potential, as long as we've got the quality in our 11 or our squad, I'm not going to lose too much sleep over it. But I would rather keep Lucas Bergvall than definitely like Pape Sarr, maybe even Bentancur. I'd rather keep Bergvall and have him develop here. And so it's a really good update from Ali Gold. It seems as though he's just cracking on with things. He's maybe just trying to see what happens. He's not going to get too ahead of himself in terms of pushing for a move. So maybe there is hope that he will stay beyond the end of the season and he could be a Tottenham player come the end of the transfer window. So let's wait and see how that develops. We've heard rumours. We haven't heard the last of Newcastle and Nottingham Forest and maybe even Villa entering the race for him. So I think we'll keep an eye on it. But it sounds like he's not, sulking. He's not downing tools. He's just getting on with the job. And hopefully he does that if he is here beyond the end of the season. But that is your Tottenham update. Let me know in the comment section below. What are your thoughts on the potential forward signings of Balogun? Do you think Balogun, Gakpo and Savinho is a good window if we can get those three and nothing else? What are your thoughts on the fee for Djed Spence? What are your thoughts on potentially Lucas Bergvall staying? Let me know in the comment section below. Like, subscribe and comment. And as always, come on you Spurs.